Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast, episode 39. In this episode, I speak with Tyler James White. Tyler is an actor, he's a writer, he's a musician, he's many creative things, and I met him through the Playhouse West community here in Los Angeles, and we hadn't talked in about 2 years, aside from, the occasional Instagram messages, so this was an incredible treat. I had a phenomenal conversation with him. I left the conversation extremely inspired to go out and make projects because Tyler will talk about that in this conversation. And he's just a really great guy, great energy. The book of the episode, since Tyler is an actor, we're going to go with Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. I'm not kidding you. This book is like a movie. It is so amazing, especially if you picture McConaughey's voice as you're reading it. And from my understanding, you can actually get the book on tape with his voice. Such an amazing story. Such a cool guy that's in the Hollywood spotlight, but isn't really about the Hollywood spotlight. And he wrote a very honest book here. It's Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. Really fun book. Really fun read. And without further ado, here's my conversation with Tyler. Tyler James White, welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast.
Glad to be here, Sam. Glad to be here.
I'm glad. Is that coffee you're drinking?
No, it's tea.
Oh, you're joining me then tonight.
Yeah, what do you got there? I got some green tea right here.
I have decaffeinated green tea. Oh, your thing even says tea on it. So you've one-upped me. All right.
Yeah.
So good to see you, dude. I have not seen you in 2 years.
Isn't that wild, man? Isn't that wild? Yeah. I mean, I feel like the first year doesn't count. I always say that. I feel like 2020 shouldn't count as a year. Mm-hmm. Birthday shouldn't count. It was just a mulligan, and we restarted. Not that 2021 was better, but yeah, I can't believe it's been 2 years, dude. It's crazy.
And it's crazy now that things are opening back up and are open back up. It's like,
mm-hmm.
It's still not the same. There's still this layer, as someone said on the podcast recently, this layer of anxiety almost that's stained within everything. I don't know how to describe it. It's weird. It's not a bad thing. It's just different. No,
it is different. And I definitely, it's all over the place, but I feel like in Los Angeles, especially, there's still this, especially now that masks are optional, it's kind of the comfortability, it's strange. And for me, I try to go with the flow, man. So all
you can do, man. That's all there is.
Yeah. I try to stay informed on the protocols, and then whatever I got to do, that's what I do. But still, just going out and about, it's different. But still, I try to live my life, and you can't let it prevent you from doing things.
So, I mean, we'll just dig right in here. You are obviously an actor, a fine, great actor.
Oh, thank you.
I actually was looking at your IG before we started, man, and you had that picture of us at Playhouse. Doing the nursery rhyme with Tommy and Money.
Yeah, Playhouse West, man.
Oh, God, I miss that stage, man.
Me too. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears were left on that stage. And that was fun. That was the last. That was right before everything hit.
Right before the pandemic.
But that was fun. I think that was the first time that you and I actually got to work together a little bit on something, and not that we worked extensively on that, but yeah.
And that was the beauty of that showcase and just Playhouse in general, man. Even doing a scene with someone, even if you didn't put it up, it's an experience. It's something you got to create with someone else,
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, just it's hard to match, in your professional life and a lot of things. You don't get to go to the places as often as you did in a class like that,
You just hit it on the head.
Yeah, it was the ultimate highs, the ultimate lows, especially with the amount of work that all of us kind of put in. I feel like we were a part of a pretty special group, where we put a lot into it, and I've been trying to find that in my professional life, and it's tough, it's different. And I've been able to kind of like utilize it recently. I think that was one of the reasons I had to step away um, from school, was to try to like find that in myself and the things that I was doing in my, I guess, career, you could say.
So update me. What has the 2 years been like for you as an actor?
Um, I mean, like anyone else, it's a roller coaster, man. It's like highs and lows. Um, Funny enough, like I started at like the ultimate high. Right when the pandemic hit, I did this voiceover job that made me SAG, and then right after that, I had like a starring role in a Lifetime movie, and so
Nice.
it was like bang bang. Like even though the world was, going to the place that it was like, oh wow, like things are kind of chugging along here. This is
You had a
pretty.
starring role in a Lifetime movie?
Yeah, I mean,
That's
like,
incredible.
yeah. No, it was a lot of fun, man. Like it started as like a smaller part. It was like a handful of scenes, and I got the script, and I was like, oh, okay, like, sweet, man. Like this looks like fun. And then they just kept adding more and more scenes, like the closer we got to the filming days. And then when they released like the poster, I was like on the poster. Like I was like, oh,
Whoa.
I'm on. Like it's my face on the thing.
Yeah.
So it was pretty wild. Um, and while that was all going on, I was working on my own projects, and those were kind of getting some momentum. Like some people were taking a look and showing a lot of interest, and I was like, oh wow, this is like things are happening. This is great.
Mm.
And then you know the Lifetime movie came out, and it was like awesome and cool, and then like right after that, it just kind of like
Ooh.
you know and went through some tough stuff personally and professionally, of just like a lot of close calls,
Mhm.
like screen test, pin, like being this close to like living the dream, and then just like, oh, we went with someone else.
I heard through
Oh,
the
we had to rewrite.
grapevine, not to actor gossip, but I,
Okay.
I did hear through the grapevine you got really, really close to something, like really close.
Yeah, and it's
That's an accomplishment within itself, man. To
thanks,
get that
man.
far,
Thank
that's
you.
huge, and you will get there.
Um,
You will get it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, and it's like it's dope, like I'm super grateful to be able to have those opportunities, but it's still like super difficult, to like be there, and your mind's kind of telling you like, oh, you get this is it,
Yeah.
and then like like tomorrow I'm gonna be like what I've been dreaming about since I was like a baby, and then the next day you just get an email. It's like, hey, sorry, and you're like, oh man. And so at a certain point, I just kind of I was like, what am I doing, man? I'm just like sitting here waiting around, relying upon like my agents or like producers or casting directors or whoever to, give me the opportunity to create and to tell stories. And I kind of made the decision. I was like, by the end of the year, I'm gonna write and produce something on my own. And that's kind of what I set out to do. And by the end of the year, I was able to do that. It was a lot of hard work, learned a lot, but it was one of the most rewarding experiences. And like creating things was such a big part of my life, and like creating things and then releasing them to the public, to have and interpret and enjoy or hate or whatever. I had been doing that since I was 10 years old, and I was learning how to use GarageBand, and MySpace was a thing, and you could put music on MySpace. Like that was just my life. Like I was always creating things and putting it out. First off, it was music, but still, like that was my life. And then I moved here with that intention of like, oh, I'm gonna like write and produce things and my own projects, and I'm still gonna do music. And then I just kind of got like settled in, you know, got kind of like complacent and like, oh, this is kind of how you have to do things. You got to kind of like,
Play the
hey,
game.
play the game and pay your dues and audition, and then it's going to come along. And then I put up that one act once again at Playhouse West, and that was a lot of fun. That was
Yeah, that
cool.
was awesome.
But like other than that, I hadn't put anything out, and like I had a lot of stuff that I was working on, but they were just sitting on my computer, and kind of sitting back and realizing like, oh wow, it's been 3 years. I've been here for 3 years, and I haven't really put out the stuff that I set out to do. And so, I got down and put in the work and did that. And, it was great. It was like, I realized that's what I want to do. Like I want to tell stories that I believe in, whether I write them, produce them, one day direct them or act in them. That's it. Regardless of if it's for some big blockbusters, studio movie, or some tiny little thing, like that's what I want to do. So, yeah, like I'm very kind of grateful for those tough times, because they lend themselves to things like these, and you grow a lot through it. But yeah,
man, you hit home with me right now. I feel very similar to you, man. Like I'm just like you, the same thing. I used to put a bunch of music out on even MySpace back in the day. And when I was in Vegas, in Vegas, I was cranking out video projects left and right, like all the time. But then I came to LA, and similar to you, it's like, you got to, one thing about LA that happened, I was humbled very quickly, because you find out about LA that whatever pond you came from, there's a bunch of people that came from their pond.
Yeah.
And it's, but like you, man, like it's like I've had that moment lately where it's like, wait a minute, I want to do my own stuff, and I want to put it out, and I haven't really done that to the level I know I'm capable. And obviously things have been happening over the past couple of years.
Oh, of course.
Once you have an ability to do it and you can make it happen, make it happen. And it's you'll relate, like, look, if you ever land a big major role someday with someone or a show or something like that, fantastic. But I, at least speaking for myself, I realized like it gets to a point where you realize you just have to do it. It's not even about the money. It's not even about what comes with it. It's like, no, I have to create and do this because it's something in me is making me do it. I can't put it away.
Yeah, I think that's what brought us to this industry in general, is that, and if it was the fame and all that, bullshit that brought us here, then I don't think we would still be out here, and yeah, like 100%, man. Like, it's just like sitting down and actually doing it. Like, you don't have to rely upon whoever it is to allow you to create. Certain things financially may hold you back, but still there's workarounds to it. And I tell you, man, like being on that set and like just looking around, it was like, wow, like I wrote this story, like the team we got, this is an amazing team of people that like we all brought together, and we're creating this cool thing that I really believe in. It was better than any other like set experience. Even like the coolest things that I've been able to book, it was miles better than that. And it was like emotional a lot of the time, like I couldn't even sleep at night because I was so excited to like get started the next day. I didn't sleep the entire like weekend of the thing. So yeah, it was like, this is what I want to be doing,
It's your purpose.
And it was, yeah. And it was cool, because then it was like, even if I was still auditioning or going out for whatever, I didn't feel so dependent on it. I wasn't like, I got to book this. This is it. This is going to be the thing. I was like, okay, yeah, like I'll put in the work for this, but the project that I'm working on, that's what I believe in. Like, that's what I'm like pumped up. I'm excited to get back to that. And it just really gave me something to feel like artistically fulfilled, like constantly. So like now that it's kind of over, I mean, not over, we're still in like post-production, but I'm like chasing the horse again, like for the next project.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it, man. And Do you have an idea in mind? Something that you may have in mind? You don't have to reveal it, but
Yeah, I got a handful of things. Yeah, something actually hit me today because I was like, a lot of the ideas are more in like the feature film territory.
Mhm.
Um, and my thing about doing shorts is like, I want it to work as a short story. Like I want it to be if I'm going to do a short film, I want it to be a short film. I want you to be able to watch it in those 15 minutes or whatever it is and be entertained and have a good experience, but have it be a complete story in those 15 minutes. Um, and so a lot of ideas that come are very like grandiose ideas that are kind of like, this isn't going to work if we try to jam pack it into this tiny little thing. It's just going to leave people confused. So yeah, I wasn't having a ton of like short film ideas recently. And then something today, I was like, oh, let me put that down real quick and
Mm.
kind of marinate on that a little bit.
And with the recent project you did,
Mm-hmm.
what was I'm finding, and I'm coming back to this because I used to do. Now that I'm got some things I want to work on, it can be overwhelming when you're thinking of it as a whole. You're like, oh, I got to do this, and this, and
Yeah.
this, and then you
Yeah.
just stay up in analysis paralysis and you don't do anything.
Yeah.
But then I realized, I'm like, no, what one thing can you do today that moves closer to that? So with your project that you did,
Yeah.
what was that process? Like you had this
Yeah.
idea. What were those first steps like to really get the ball rolling and get it going?
I mean, I can tell you exactly what it was because I feel like a lot of creatives, we get in this mode of like waiting for the inspiration to strike. You know, like I don't have a ton of good ideas today. Let me just kind of wait till tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow I'll have good ideas. And then the next day comes and you're like, no, I'm not really feeling it today. Like I want to do this story, but like, I don't know. I'll push it till tomorrow. I'll be inspired. And I really like when I made the decision that I was going to do a short film by the end of the year, I just got down and did it. Like I wrote, I think 4 short film scripts and just like cranked them out. Tried not to think too much, but like, yeah, I wrote 4. And then there was one that I really liked. I thought it had a lot to it. And then a good friend of mine who was also kind of involved in developing of it, he also liked it. And we were going to actually do that one. And then we were kind of like, well, the main characters are like young kids. And I don't know if like for our first go around, it might be a lot. So let's see what else kind of like comes out. And so then I wrote, I think 3 more short film scripts. And it's funny because the one short film script that I didn't really put like a lot of, I don't want to say not a lot of thought, but that I didn't like question myself on certain things. Because a lot of times I would go in and be like, oh, I don't want to make that the location because I'm never going to be able to like afford to find that location. Or we can't have this sequence because like it's an action sequence. And there was an idea that I had it for a while, like at least the character, I had him in my head for like a few years now. And I wrote it in between the first and third script of that session and just kind of just sat down and let it just like flow out. And that was it. I was like, okay, got it on the page. Tomorrow I'm going to go to like the third idea that I have. And funny enough, that was the script that when I showed it around to like my little circle of people that I'll show my scripts to, it got the best response. It was like, that's like one of the dopest things I think you've ever written. And I was like, really? Like, but it was also like science fiction and in like a near future. And I was like, but you know, there's no way that like, you know, with the budget that I'm trying to have for this, that'll work. And, you know, a friend of mine was just like, no, like, look at it. Like it's a cabin. You could just have it at the cabin. And so you find a way to like kind of make it work. And then just continuing to like move forward and, you know, put the team together. I owe a huge thank you to my good friend, Vincent Alvis, because he was able to kind of like find a lot of people that I didn't know like any a lot of crew people at the time, you know, like I was like, I know a ton of actors, but there's only like a handful of characters in this thing. And he really helped get the ball rolling on that. But I think it was just making the decision of like, oh, I'm doing this and this is the timeline that I'm going to do it. And then locking down the location, like having the dates set was the thing that was like, it's happening. You know, like we found the cabin, that was a whole process, but we booked it and we had the dates on the calendar and it was like, there's no going back now, you know? And so then you find a way to make it work. And yeah, that was basically how I went about it, you know? So I think there's just something about doing and not questioning yourself about it and having intention towards it that leads to it, you know, that you can't help but get to the finish line on those things. But the biggest thing I think for me is having like the dates set in stone, you know, because then you have no way out.
Yeah, you're putting yourself to a commitment. And it's also one of those things, jump in the net will appear, right? Like you just have to go. Because it's easy to go, well, I don't have the money, or, oh, I don't have the people, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, just get it going. And then everyone's that's supposed to be involved will appear.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can find ways to like, to make it work, to work around certain things, to work around budget limitations. But the biggest thing, especially in like, if you're doing a short film or anything like that kind of project, is the story. Like starting with the story, and making sure that it's really strong. Because without that, it's
you kind of you don't have much if you don't got the story.
Yeah, and as long as you have that foundation of a really strong story, like you can maybe make certain adjustments depending on like your budget, you know, limitations. You know, okay, so like maybe we wanted to have it in, you know, a big office, but we can't afford that. So let's find a different location where we can still have what this scene needs or what this part of the story needs. And we'll just find a different location for it, or we'll cheat something to look like that. But at least we have like the foundation of this story there.
Well, that's amazing. That's inspiring, man. I'm really glad you shared that, because it really, because again, you'll just go years just thinking about it instead of doing it. If you're always waiting for the right time, there is no right time. Like there really.
And I did, man. I'll tell you, like I did, and it was miserable. I was like, it wasn't fun to like sit back and be like, man, like 3 years and, you know, nothing. And knowing that you can, that's the other tough thing, is like, there's people that just, they're not writers, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like, when you know that you can like put out stuff and you know you can create stuff and you're not, it sucks. Like,
damn, you're talking to me, right? Shit. You just lit a fire like under me right now. Like it's like there's no excuse. Yeah, dude, you're no, like I'll just be real, man. Like there's been times like where I just know I'm not doing the things I know I not only can do but should be doing creatively for whatever reason I'm coming up with. And it's like, it's not that I don't want to do it, but it's like I just got to wait till this is. It's like, no, man, just go out and do it, because that's the thing you said. Like you didn't sleep, but you didn't care, because you were tapping into your truth. You were tapping into something that makes you, and that's a beautiful thing, man. Because I don't know how many people really get to ever, even if they find it, actually get to experience it. And you've got to live the dream, literally.
Thanks, man. That it was like, you know, I talked a moment ago about like those big jobs, and I was like, oh, so close to like having my dream come true. But being on that set, I was like, like you said, like I'm living my dream right now. And it was like overwhelming, like how great it felt to be doing that, you know?
And I think that's healthy too, especially like, because I know you go hard at the, I mean, you're getting auditions that can be life-changing for you. And it's like, man, like I remember they talk about this in acting school. I mean, dude, that takes some mental gymnastics and some mental toughness to be able to handle that. Like, to be in something where you give, and I've said this on the podcast before, but like, you know, and people have told me like, oh, you know, you don't have to take acting classes. You just go out to LA and start out. I'm like, no, like it is this, and you're way farther than I've ever gotten in it, but it's like, it's this, the acting's one. Yeah. You got to get great at acting. That's the step one.
Yeah.
But after step one, there's like all these other things to get in the quote unquote business. And even people that are phenomenally talented, like beyond, you've seen them, I've seen them, that are just like, how are they not like in every major motion picture? Your talent doesn't necessarily guarantee you anything. And I think that's one of the hardest parts about it. You can have the skills and be good enough, but there's other things that prevent you from potentially getting the opportunity for whatever reason, because it's a business. So maybe talk about that part of it. And I know doing your project, it's going to help you with that mentally.
Yeah.
But how do you navigate that? Like, you know, especially when you get those close calls.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could say that it gets you. It does. You do find a way to navigate it. The thing that is tough is, it's happened to me a few times, is you start to get like numb to it, which isn't great, you know, where if you start getting a lot of no's, or you get close calls and then it's no's, you kind of get to this point, or at least I have before, where like, well, all right, like, why even try? Or you'll have like a handful of auditions, and the one that you like really, really worked your ass off on, that you like, this is speaking to me so much, and you put all this work into it, and then you had like another one at the same time that you're kind of like, whatever. The one that you were really into, crickets. And then the one that like you could care less about, that's the one that you get, or that's the one that like they really like you for, and you're like, what? But you don't want to do that. Like, I think it's just a matter of like adversity, of just being able to like continuously power through. And, you know, auditioning can be tough. And people always say like, you know, just approach it as if you are that character. And I think there is something to that, but also approaching it as if it's like the last time that you get to do it, you know, like closing night, when we would do like, you know, runs of plays, and you have that last night, and that's it. But I think just knowing what you're here for too, you know, like knowing what your goals are, helps you kind of power through. It's really just like being able to just power through and be resilient. And, you know, it's really just being resilient through it. And it can be tough for a lot of people, and it's tough for people that are outside of the industry to like get it and understand. But yeah, that's the biggest thing. And then just finding those little wins, you know, those little moments of recognition where, you know, someone sees what you've done, and they're like, man, like that really spoke to me, or like, I love your work. Or if you do get, you know, pinned for something or dropped or whatever it is, like finding those little wins to be like, oh, I'm doing something right. You know, there's a lot of people that have tried to be in this industry, or be an actor, or be whoever, that never get any sort of recognition. And that's awful. But being able to have that, it's like, okay, like, yeah, like I'm on the right path. So like, let's continue down this road. It's what keeps you going.
Well, I'm rooting for you, man. It's going to happen. It's already happening. It's already happening. And
thanks, man.
Transitioning slightly artistically, you got the guitar in the background, and I heard some guitar on Instagram. So you make music too, man.
Yeah, like I'm finding.
Tell me about the music journey.
Yeah, so that was actually like, that's what I really like started with. I mean, that was my life basically until I came here to LA.
From Detroit, correct?
Yeah, from just outside of Detroit. Yeah, I was like the band boy growing up. So that was it, man. I started playing when I was like 6. But I was always always fascinated with like performing and musicians. And like when I was like 2, 3 years old at like the Christmas parties, I would get up on the fireplace and like sing to the family terribly, like Backstreet Boys and stuff. And as soon as I could like get old enough to learn an instrument and get my fingers on like a guitar, my parents were like, all right, like we'll get like guitar lessons. And I just wanted to like create and make songs. And then starting like my first band, as soon as I met someone else that played an instrument, I was like, oh, you play guitar, so you can play bass? All right, we're a band now. Um, and then just going through like band after band throughout junior high and high school. And then eventually I was in this punk band for about 4 years, and we were able to do some cool things and stuff. But yeah, that's what I thought like was my path. I thought that I was going to be like the musician guy. And I didn't really put much thought into like anything else. I kind of put like the blinders on to like, what do I really want to do with my life? Um, that's just kind of like what was laid out in front of me. And so I just kind of stuck with it. Like going into college, I was like, all right, like I don't need to think about my major because I'm just going to drop out in a year to like tour full time. So like, yeah, audio engineering. Okay, that's cool. And then like a year into that, I was like, I don't really, this is kind of not what I thought. It's not just like music. So marketing. All right, I'll do that for the next, and then I'll drop out. Um, but still, man, it was fun and it taught me a lot. And especially, we're talking about kind of making your own opportunities and doing things on your own when things aren't kind of getting like handed to you. That was a big part of, like the scene that I got to be a part of, in like the Metro Detroit, like kind of punk scene. There's this big kind of like mentality in like the punk world about DIY, do it yourself. When you don't have a label and no one's really giving you money to do things, you just find ways to kind of do it on your own. You find your own studio time, you find your own venues where you can book shows and bands that you can link up with to like tour and play in different states. And it's a really like valuable quality that I owe to that and to being a part of that.
Wow, it's like, so what led you to what led you into the acting then, and what led you to Los Angeles? Obviously
Yeah.
acting, but like what how did that, after going through your music phase with that, like how did that
Yeah.
evolve into wanting to act?
Um, it's like it's difficult to like put it into a simple story,
Hmm.
because there's like a whole bunch of different like
Right.
interweaving convoluted things. I always chalk it up to um it's gonna sound very unrelated. My older brother uh played travel hockey growing up. He eventually played Division 1 hockey, total badass. But we were always, in the car for tournaments and practice. Like, so I basically lived in the back seat of my parents' car. And before the iPod, I would have, the Discman
Yeah.
with like a backpack full of CDs, and I would just sit back there and just look out the window and just like shuffle through these albums, and I would just imagine these worlds and these characters, and I would always just imagine myself in these stories as these characters. And I still do it to this day. But for me, like, once again, I would always tie it to like music. I was like, oh, like this is music. So like, that's why I want to be a musician. Like, this is feeding into that. Like, I'm just thinking of like music videos or something. Um, but there was just something about it, about like these stories and me being in them. And then like getting older, I was really into video games. And my favorite video games to play were the ones where you could create a character. And I would always like create myself, but like slightly different to like fit into this world where I could kind of like imagine myself through these characters. And whether it be the video games or the worlds that I was imagining, like in the back seat of the car, I would usually like sketch out these characters and these worlds and how I would see them. Like I used to draw all the time, but I would just draw like these very specific characters. And at one point I thought like I wanted to be a comic book artist because of that. But yeah, it was like all these things that were just kind of like a part of my life that I never really like thought of why I was so interested in those things. And then I did drama in junior high, and I like really really liked it. And got to do like a couple like silly junior high plays and stuff. And then going into high school, I remember we had this like orientation thing where they had like teachers from different programs kind of like talking about it. So they had like, the art department, the photography, stuff, drama department, all that. And I was really interested in like in theater. And I was like, this seems like, the wheels were turning and thinking about like all those things that I was into. And like, it kind of makes sense of like, of acting. Like it all kind of like the equation adds up into like acting, into being an actor and getting to like play characters and stuff. And I remember like kind of going home talking to like my family about it, and like they didn't, no one like shut it down or anything, but they were just kind of talking like, well, like none of your friends are really into that, and I played sports and stuff, and there was like the whole toxic masculinity thing. And so I kind of just like talked myself out of it. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, like, yeah, I guess I don't really want to do that. And so I kind of just put it aside. And then throughout high school, like the band thing really started to take off, and like consume me, and playing shows all the time and writing. And I didn't really have to like I said, like think too much about what I really wanted to be doing with my life, for the rest of my life. And in my head, like I I really like when it came to the music thing, I just wanted to tour. That was like my goal. Like I just wanted to hit the road and play some shows and have experiences and stories to tell. Like that was like my goal. I was like, I don't want to be like a rock star. I just want to like do that. Like that would be fun. Um, and then like fast forward to kind of like I think I was like 20, like 19 or 20, and we had gone on like a handful of like these smaller tours and stuff. And I was in college with the BS major. Um, and I remember like I transferred from community college to a university. And when I went to the university, I had to take like 6 extra classes in order to get this like scholarship thing. They were like, yeah, like you took more classes than you needed to at the community college. So like in order to get the money for this, you have to take 6 extra classes. So like maybe you should get a minor in like something that relates to business because that's what you're studying. And at the same time, I was starting to have all these like existential like questions of what I want, what do I want to be doing with my life? Is music really like the thing that I want to be doing? And once again, like thinking about, the stories and thinking about like being in that back seat and imagining myself as those characters. And I was like, man, I really want to see what this acting thing is about. And so I met with the counselor for the theater program at Wayne State University, where I was going or about to go. And he was kind of confused at first because he was like, you're like a business student. What are you like, what are you doing here, man? And I kind of like explained to him like, my passions and how I was like really interested in it. And he was like, all right, well, sure. Like, welcome to the program. And since, you can only take 6 classes, you'll just take like the acting and script analysis classes. And I was like, all right. And I still didn't really know like what went into the craft of like acting yet. And I just remember going in that first day and just like everything just kind of came together of like, oh my God, like this is everything that I enjoy doing. It's everything. And from then on, I was just like immersed in it. I was like the geek in class that was like, call it like ants, like raising my hand. Like it was the first time that I was like, I loved doing homework. Like I would go home and just like read all the books that they gave us about, on Chekhov and Stanislavski and yeah, I was all about it. And I would get really confused of like the other kids in my classes who like weren't doing the same thing because they were like theater kids, so they had done it like growing up. So I don't know if they were like jaded to it or what, but I just remember like looking up like kids would skip class. I'm like, you're skipping class? Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, and so from then on, I kind of knew I was like, man, like it's either LA or New York, right? And so yeah, like I knew I had to come to LA to really get after it. And yeah, I spent a few more years doing the music thing, but at a certain point I had to make the move, and that's when I did.
That's an amazing story of manifestation, if I've ever heard one. That was awesome. All starting from going to hockey games, sitting in the back seats. I did that same thing too, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Visual, or I used to I like to run around and listen to things and like just see what comes in the head, and then yeah, it's just like you never know what things are leading to, but you got to go explore that curiosity. But you exploring that curiosity eventually led you to a place like, well, I did not expect to be here, but here I am.
Yeah.
That's dope, dude. I really enjoy that story you just told.
Oh, it's like
you played hockey too, right? You played hockey, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Not at the level that my brother did.
Right.
Like, no, I started really young.
Mm-hmm.
Like my family's Canadian, so like the week that we learn how to walk, we get skates and we learn how to ice skate. So I started playing like when I was like 3 or 4, but I didn't have the passion for it when I was a kid that like my brother did. And it's funny because now like I love hockey. I love going to games. It's like the super nostalgic thing for me. But when I was a kid, I didn't really. I think I stopped playing when I was like 10, and just started like I played football. I remember I did like 1 year of football and hockey, and they were like the same season. And it was just like chaos of like changing pads and cars and like going from the rink to the field. And after that, I was like, yeah, like.
You played football and hockey simultaneously?
For 1 year when I was a kid, yeah.
How sore were you?
I mean, I was.
Those are two very physically contact sports.
I mean, I was a child, so like when you're a kid, you're just
okay.
You can just go and go.
It wasn't like high school level or like okay.
No, yeah, I was like I think 10 years old when I did that. So you're like the Energizer Bunny. You just keep rolling through it. But yeah, no, I love it, man. I need to go to a game soon.
You're an Anaheim Ducks fan, aren't you?
Yeah.
I'm just going off your social media. I remember like back before the pandemic, you'd be going to games and stuff. I remember seeing some of those.
Yeah, no, I love the Mighty Ducks movies. And so when I came out here, I was like, I need like a LA team to root for. And I was like, the Ducks. That's it.
Why not? Oh, okay. I was going to say the Kings, but you're a Mighty Ducks fan, so that makes sense that you'd.
Yeah. No, I'm a Ducks fan. It's funny because like I prefer like the LA teams that are outside of LA. Like I love the Ducks. I love going to Angels games. I don't know what it is. I think it's because it's like the Detroit in me because we like would have rivalries for a brief period with LA teams. There was a very brief rivalry between the Pistons and the Lakers for like 2 years.
Yeah, there was. Because the Pistons beat the Lakers 1 year.
Yeah.
That Pistons team that won the championship.
Yeah, that
was a heck of a team right there, man.
Yeah.
Larry Brown was their coach. They had all those all-stars on
Ben
there.
Wallace, Rasheed, Chauncey Billups,
Tayshaun Prince, Rip Hamilton. Yeah, dude, they were loaded. Yeah, because they beat the correct me if I'm wrong, they beat the Laker team when Malone and Gary Payton went to the Lakers.
I think so.
And they were like the Lakers were
Kobe
stacked.
The Lakers were stacked.
And
Detroit came in.
Yeah. Tell me about Detroit, man. What's it like there? What was it like there growing up and what's it like there now? Because I hear mixed thing. I don't know. I've never been.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up outside of Detroit, so I wasn't like in the city. And growing up, it definitely was like, you know, what people hear. It's rough,
Mm.
Um, but there's this sort of like underdog like mentality that it kind of
Mm.
gives you, like growing up in that sort of like atmosphere. It just gives you this sort of like work ethic and this drive and this sort of like underdog like hunger. Um, and so that's kind of just, it's great to kind of be a part of that and have that like built into you. But now it's different. Like there's a lot of like businesses going up there, a lot of like new restaurants and bars. I mean, a lot of like gentrification, which is like,
Mm.
um, but it's different. Like going back, it's like a totally different city, um, and it's cool to see. It's cool to see. Like I definitely suggest it for people that are looking for a cool place to go hang out. That's like different than what most people would think. Um, because there's a lot to do and a lot to see. Like I love when people hit me up and are like, "Oh, what? I'm going to Detroit for like this work thing. Well, what am I gonna do?" And I'm like, "Oh, here you go. Here's like 30
Ah,
things, great food, like great times." Yeah, and there's some really good food in Detroit, man. I didn't know Detroit pizza was a thing until I moved to LA.
huh.
I guess Detroit style pizza is like a huge thing, and now whenever I go back, I gotta get
Wow. I bet you don't miss that Detroit snow. Just like
it.
I don't miss Illinois snow.
Yeah, man. You're also a Midwest boy
Yeah, I'm a
too. You
Midwestern
know
too,
what's up.
man. Yeah.
Um, I don't know how you feel about this, but like it's it's like a bittersweet thing. Like I love going back and like experiencing it. Like I love going back for the holidays and like if there's snow and like having the seasons and all that. But yeah, at a certain point, it's nice to like come back. I think it makes me like appreciate it much more.
About 5 days is my marker. That's like the like, all right, back to sunshine.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's nice to like be able to bounce back and forth.
yeah.
But yeah, I like it. I enjoy it more and more, and I miss it more and more. The more I'm out here, I find myself
The
like,
Midwest is a great place to grow up. And the one thing I'll
yeah,
say, there's nothing like a Midwest fall. I love the fall time in the Midwest. You can't beat a good
yeah,
Midwest fall, but winter, then spring, which is highly questionable. Summer's okay, but lots of humidity.
yeah.
And
The
I just like
humidity
I
and the
just fell in love with the
bugs.
West Coast and all that
Yeah,
weather too much. But yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, I'd never been to Detroit, and then I mean, really, Detroit, man, that's really one of America's greatest cities. At one point in time,
yeah,
like Detroit was the place, like because that's where all the cars are.
yeah. Motor City.
Motor City.
Yeah, yeah. There's like
Wait, Motown Records too, wasn't that there too?
Motown Records.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The music culture, man. Like techno was started there. Punk, arguably, kind of like has some roots in Detroit with like Iggy Pop and MC5. Um, yeah, it's like I think it's like the ultimate like underdog city, and I'm I proudly call it home, man. Like, yeah, I got like 3 Detroit Tigers hats now that I rock proudly.
Yeah.
Um, but growing up, man, I didn't feel that way. Like growing
Mm.
up there, I was like, I can't wait to get out, man. I got to get to LA. I
Mm-hmm.
got to get here. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and now that I'm here, I'm like, man, I love Detroit.
Ah. Yeah, I think you definitely appreciate things when you're older. Like you
Yeah.
appreciate certain things, and I don't know. What do you think about LA? I mean, aside from the acting, obviously, do you think you see yourself staying in LA long term, or maybe once a career is established, uh, going back and forth, half part time in Detroit, part time in
Um,
LA? Have you thought about that?
yeah, like long term. I don't know, man. Like there's things that so I love Southern California. Like,
Yeah.
and I haven't been able to take advantage of it nearly as much as
Mm.
I should.
Hmm.
And that's something
Likewise.
that I'm really trying to do, you know, from now, like, from now on. Because I kind of just stayed in my bubble since I moved here, and there's some cool things to do here. Um, that being said, there is sort of this like LA mentality that I don't really enjoy. I've been fortunate enough to like meet some awesome people, man. Like, you know, you included, like
Yeah, you too.
our circle of friends and other friends that I've made. Like, I've been able to meet some really special people that like don't fall into that trap of like the vanity and the, like the fake glitz and whatever and all that. But it's still present, and it kind of sucks. And there's just also this like this need that like you got to be like, I don't know, like
I know what you
networking
mean.
or do like,
Yeah.
it's just it's
It's
there and it's like
exhausting.
built.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, and it is
Yeah.
exhausting. And there is something that's like, I guess, motivating about it. It does like, I guess, push you in a way. But at the same time, there is this sort of like shallowness to certain things that like, funny enough, like as soon as I drive like an hour outside of LA, it's like not there for some reason. Like, I don't know, like if you go to a certain beach that isn't like in the mecca of beach, you're like, oh wow, this is like a cool vibe here. Like I like this.
I was in Thousand Oaks with my girlfriend this weekend hiking, and it's completely like you like feel it, like it's like literally like sheds off of you, and it's
Yeah.
not bad. Like it's not like LA's.
No.
Like, it's just different. It's a different
Yeah.
energy, different feel. But I know exactly what you mean. Like there's this like go 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 go, like
Yeah.
and you gotta be doing this and you gotta be doing that, and like I'm
Yeah.
like you now, like where I like being around the creative energy,
Mhm.
but I don't necessarily want to jump through the hoops to do some of the ways
Yeah.
they do things.
Well, and it's not even like, because there's this like, you know, this go go go, but it's not even like I need to be doing things that are like creative. It's like this like, I don't know, this, I can only describe it as like shallowness of like, I need to meet this person to get to this level to do that.
What can you do for my career type
Yeah,
of thinking, instead
exactly.
of
Like
meeting
what?
people
Yeah,
genuinely as a friend and be like, hey man,
yeah.
you're cool, like, but
It's a
instead of like,
constant. Yeah, what am I going to get out of you? Like, how am I going to benefit from this relationship? Um, which nah, like,
I'm with you,
I
man.
don't like that. Like, I like having really genuine relationships with people. And the thing that sucks is that like, it's kind of made me almost like assume that everyone's like that when I meet them out here, which like kind of
Mm.
sucks. Um, but at the same time, like it's been able to like have me make really strong friendships, because right off the bat I'm kind of like, well, this person's going to be kind of flaky, and like, and then when someone's able to kind of like burst through that, I'm like, yeah, like this person is like great to be around, and I do like enjoy this friendship and this relationship. So, but yeah, having to deal with it on the daily is, it's fine for now, but like I definitely, as I've gotten older, have found that I enjoy being more low key and like more serene environments. Um, Not that I'm like just gonna like live in the middle of nowhere.
Mm.
Um, but I would like that's why I love living in Burbank, because it's like I feel like it's kind of more chilled out.
Yeah, Burbank is.
Um,
Oh, yes, you're right next door to me. Then I'm in North Hollywood.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So I feel like it's sort of like there's less, you know.
Burbank's like more normalized, I would call it. Like it's an actual like kind of its own town. And what is its own town, but like it has
Yeah,
its own feel
yeah.
to it.
So like thinking long term, that's like where I would see myself, like whether that is like going back home or moving somewhere else. That's like, I really want to check out Vancouver. I've never been to
I've
Vancouver.
heard amazing things about that place.
I
I
feel like
haven't
I would
been.
really like
I could
enjoy
see you in
Vancouver.
Vancouver.
Go back and tracing my roots.
Get a nice studio loft or something,
Yeah,
and down get involved in some film up in Vancouver.
yeah, nah,
You like
yeah.
Tim Horton coffee, that's why.
I do put on for the Timmies, man. It's funny. Like it's another thing. It's like something that I didn't realize uh it like reminds me of home, and I can't get it out here. So like, I'd have way more appreciation for it now than I did when I was just like, oh, I could just go down the street and get some Tim Hortons, and there's like 20 of them in the area. Not in LA. So
Yeah, I
if I
wonder
stay
why.
here, maybe I'll just open the first Tim Hortons in LA,
Yeah.
franchise it out here.
Yeah, it sounds like a plan. And well, dude, it's going almost an hour here. I could just keep going, but I think one thing, and you're the
Yeah.
first person I'm gonna throw this on in the podcast.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you the last word eventually.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, man. Do you have any type of life philosophy, like your existence up to this point and all your experiences? How would you describe? I mean, how would you describe this existence and how you navigated, and any
Yeah.
thoughts you may have in that realm?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think of like a profound way to like
I know.
describe,
I just like,
but like,
literally threw that
yeah,
out
but
of nowhere.
no, like for me, I kind of just, I guess, go for things. And if I don't know how to do something, I find a way to learn it or figure it out. And try not to like question myself on like, am I, so like, for example, for the short that I did, we needed like some animations for the computer graphics. And I'm not an animator, but I know my way around graphic design, which is another thing that like I didn't study, but like we needed posters back in the day in my band, and so I would kind of figure it out. And so for my short, I just like designed these interfaces and just kind of figured out how to like animate it. And that's kind of how I approach everything that I do. Where like if someone's not gonna like do it for me or like help me out, like I'll figure out a way to do it on my own, and I won't question it. And yeah, like I talked about it earlier, but like just having like this do it yourself mentality, which I lost sight of for a long time, but like I think that's something that's really important to have. I feel like a lot of people question whether they like can or should do something. Um, I don't know. Have we sworn yet? Like, can I say like it's hard for me not to swear, but like,
Oh, you can swear all you want.
okay, yeah,
You can
but
say whatever
fuck
the
that.
fuck you want.
Yeah, fuck that. Like, if you have something that you want to be doing, if you have a goal or a passion or whatever it is, whether it's a project or whatever, just fucking go after it. Like, figure out the steps like other people have, and they're not any like better or less or smarter or less intelligent than you are. So just chase it, man. And then another thing, like I there's this, I guess, mantra or whatever, like my uncle said it when I was really young. Um, don't worry about the things you can't control. That being said, like not to just like sit on your ass and like not worry about anything, but there's a lot that you can control. There's a lot that you can do. And I think people like don't give themselves enough credit, with what they have the ability to like learn and chase after. So that's how I try to approach anything, man. Like whether it was music, like I wanted to write songs, I wanted to be in bands. And so I just kind of like learned what I had to get to that point. Like I was like, well, I don't really need to learn music because I'm not trying to like be in an orchestra or like go to college for music. So like, let me just kind of learn it by ear. And that's still to this day. Like I learned stuff by ear. And with acting, I was like, well, I didn't do it as a kid, but like, what are the steps that I need to take to kind of get to where I need to go? Okay. Like I have these classes I can take. I'm going to make them acting classes. LA is the place where all the opportunities are happening because Detroit, there's not really a lot of opportunities for an actor. So I'm gonna go to LA and I'm gonna figure it out, and obviously be smart about it. But yeah, like I dove headfirst when I came out here. Like I was fortunate enough to have friends that I met that were here that could give me some advice. But we keep going back to this, but there's just something about just doing that I think just like feeds into certain things happening for you, instead of just relying upon other people or like that big break or that big moment of inspiration. There's just something about knuckling down and like chasing after things that I don't know. I don't think too much about it until like after I do something. When someone's like, "Oh, you did that? Like you animated that thing, or like you did this?" I'm like, yeah. Like I don't know. Like I just like we needed it, and I wanted it for the thing. So like, yeah. I mean, it took a long time for me to figure it out, but like I did. All right, and now I know how to do that.
I guess Nike was on to something, right?
Yeah,
Just
I
do it, man.
guess.
Just
Yeah,
do it.
Nike, just do it. I mean, there is truth to that. 100%. Like, yeah, like it gets frustrating talking to like certain people that I know have these like talents and abilities, and they're just kind of like sitting around, man. Like,
Yeah.
you know, um, like I remember, man, I remember even in like going into college and talking to friends that I knew were like passionate about certain things, and they weren't gonna like go after it or like explore that or study that. I would have friends that were like really into acting, and I was like, "Oh, so you're gonna like go into theater?" And like, "Oh no, like I'm gonna like go into like medicine and nursing because like it's got a good." And I'm like, Like you're talented, like you have abilities. Like what do you? Oh man. I mean, now I've gotten older and I've kind of like I feel like I understand a little bit why people go down those paths,
Mm-hmm.
and the path of an artist is not easy, and it's definitely not for everyone. Um,
I agree
and
completely.
that's a whole rabbit hole you could go down.
Well, if you got a few more minutes,
I
because
do, man. Yeah, I got some
that
time. Yeah.
that's something. Because I just turned 35, right? And it's like
Hmm.
pretty much for the last 12 years, really, since I got out of college, 12, 13 years, it's like I've worked jobs. Obviously, I have a job now, but my primary focus has been the art comes first. We're chasing the art,
Yeah.
especially moving out to LA. It's like going to Playhouse West and doing all that stuff. That was a
Hmm.
full-time job within itself.
Yeah.
Full-time job on top of a full-time job. And it's
Yeah.
like, you got to have flexibility and freedoms to do a lot of the work it takes to do those things.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. I'll shout him out here on the podcast because we said it publicly. You know, Nick
Hmm.
Checkett.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
pharmacist, but he's also an actor, a writer, really,
Yeah.
really good one. And
Yeah. Great guy.
he went to pharmacy school straight out of high school,
Hmm.
18 to 24. By 24, he was a pharmacist. He was saying like at the time, his mom was pushing him to do it. He's like, I don't really want to do this, but now he has a guaranteed job wherever he goes. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. And he can
Yeah.
have that job and then go work on his art stuff. And man, I look at that and like that, I wish I would have had that hindsight or that ability, because it's like, it sucks, but it's something I've just accepted in this third dimension reality.
Hmm.
You have to pay bills and you have to work. And art doesn't always pay that. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's a battle, man, especially when you're getting older and you're like, shit, I still want to keep doing these things, but it's
Yeah.
I do I want to buy a house one day? Do I want
Hmm.
to have this and that? Like those things are going to take money and
Yeah.
some higher financial ability, but at the same time, you don't want to give up this world that you love so much. So
Hmm.
it's a battle, man. That's
It definitely, yeah, it definitely is it's a balance of like,
mhm.
that's the thing that sucks is like, you want to create all these things. And like you said, like it, it costs money. Like to produce a film costs money. Like
Mhm.
to go into a recording studio, unless you have a label, like it costs money. Um, And even if you do have a label, like they're footing the bill, and that's a whole other thing too, like labels and shit. But yeah, it's a difficult balance, man, of like trying to like chase that artistic dream or whatever that life, but you still have to like fit into like this kind of bullshit society that we've like created for ourselves, where we got to pay bills and like, you know, yeah. And if you want to start a family and get a house, like it's, yeah. And as you get older, it's like, unfortunately, those things start to like dwindle a little bit, you know, like the time of having a family. Like I want to have kids too one day, but I don't want to be like an old man that can't even like
Right.
play catch with
No,
his
same
kid
here,
or
man.
something, you
Same
know,
here.
like, so yeah, like I think, and I'm not as wise as you, so it's hard for me to like
Oh,
give any sort of like advice or talk about, but I think if you know like what you really want out of life, whether that is like creating or having or both, having a family and creating, like I think you can do both, and maybe it won't be at some like grandiose level. Does that make any sense? Like,
absolutely.
um, but I think you can still do both and feel like
Fulfilled.
validity in it. Yeah, and feel fulfilled. Um, you know, we're not all going to be like movie stars and rock stars and,
Right.
you know, star athletes or whatever, but we can still be fulfilled in our art and still have those other things, man. Like, you know, Stephen King had kids before he was like,
Mm.
you know, who he is today. So
Billionaire, whatever
yeah,
he is.
yeah,
I'm glad you said that, man, because you are right. Like that's the conclusion I've, because yeah, like I do want a family and kids. I came to the realization of, and it's like,
yeah,
but I want to also be the person I am for them as well. And part of that is
yeah,
doing these creative things. And I'm with you. Like, all right, it's not about like doing the creative thing to make oodles and noodles of money. It's doing the
yeah,
creative thing is like, no, this is a part of me and this fulfills me. Or doing the community theater that you do,
yeah,
or doing, making just maybe
yeah,
once a year, even if you just did
yeah,
once a year, I'm going to make one short film a year, one a
yeah,
year. 10 years go by, you've made 10 short films and you do it right. You put money into it. Maybe you do work
yeah.
a job you don't necessarily love, but you
Hmm.
fund a really awesome short film once a year. And
Yeah,
that's what I foresee for me. Like I can see myself like adapting something like that. Like, I don't know what it's going to be, but every year, like I'm going to just do something creative and put money into it and enjoy it.
I love that. I love that. And I think by doing that, you will have that fulfillment, regardless of like if it's at whatever level. Um, you know, that's how I like, there's some times where like I've gotten opportunities and I'm like, man, this isn't really like the role that I saw myself playing, or if it's like a contract thing and say I'm going to be locked into this thing, but the dollar amount's there. And I look at that and I go, well, wait a minute. I could use that to fund these creative endeavors. Um, and so, yeah, like I think if you just continuously like have those things for you, those outlets, you're going to be fulfilled in your artistic life. But it takes doing them, you know? I think a lot of people that like sit around and are waiting, like they're unhappy because they're not doing that. And like, you know, someone could go out and do like a short film or whatever and hate it and think this is like a miserable experience,
Mm-hmm.
wasting my time. But at least you did it and discovered that.
Yes.
And now maybe you can channel into something else, you know?
That's a very valuable point you just brought up. A lot of times when you don't act upon the desire, like to make something or create, by doing it, you may thought like, oh, I'm going to do this and then do all that, but you do it one time. Oh, wait, no, that's not what I thought it would be. But now I can let that
yeah,
go. I can let that
yeah,
completely go. It's not in my mind space anymore. Let the next thing pop up. And I'm going to, that's why you're the
yeah.
wise one. That's That's a very good point. Very good point.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like, don't limit yourself to certain things and try as much as you can. And if you feel that like tug towards something, don't put it on hold, you know?
Mm.
It's like recently it's been music. And that was like a big thing. Like when I came to LA, I was like, I'm here to be an actor. That's it. I'm not like the music thing is behind me. It's going to be a distraction. If I try to do that, I'm done with that. And even like in producing my own projects, I was like, that's down the line. I'm here to be an actor. Let's just focus on that and make that happen. And it ended up turning into like feeling pretty miserable after a few years of putting those things on hold. And now after like creating my stories and now like music's finding its way back into my life, I'm like, yeah, let's give me everything. Like, let's do it. Like, let's like create in any avenue that like I'm feeling inspired towards.
Mm.
Cause why not? Especially in this age, man, like there's so many different outlets that you can be creating in. Like, why not?
You are right. Yeah, we have unlimited outlets now, like
Mm-hmm.
unlimited. Man,
And
this has been. Go ahead.
oh, sorry. I mean, that's another thing that like, I guess I get into a tangent about is like, I've had an issue with this and I don't know if anyone else has, but like labels and titles, if that makes any sense, if you see where I'm going, like,
Am I an actor? Am I a music
am I an
artist?
actor? Am I a director? Am I a singer? Am I this? Am I that? And for me, like those titles became very like paralyzing.
Mm.
Because I have this like deep-seated issue of like, this might be getting like in some deep terrain, but like I have this like
bring it.
I have so I I have this all if this makes any sense, like I have this ego about not wanting to come off egotistical, if that makes any sense.
Okay, I follow. Yeah.
Um like it's been scarring and it's kind of bullshit and it's kind of stupid, but like I have this like fear of like coming off like I'm egotistical of people, like thinking of like people are gonna look at me like, who does this asshole think he is, like doing that. And it's bullshit, but it's something that's plagued me for a long time. And so like, like I said, like coming out here, I was like, well, I just need to be an actor. Cause like, if I say I'm all these things, like everyone's going to hate me. They're going to be like, this guy's whatever. Who does he think he is? But at the end of the day, like after going through a tumultuous last year and everything, like I realized I just want to create and tell stories, regardless of whatever title that brings me. If that means that I'm like directing and now I'm a director, if that means I'm producing and now I'm a producer, if that means I'm like writing and singing and like making songs and I'm a singer now, like whatever it is, whatever. Like I just want to create and tell stories in any medium that is like tugging at me. So, like fuck the titles. And who cares what other people think, because people are going to think what they want to think regardless. I've learned that. So yeah.
Like, artistry is artistry. I think I'll just speak for myself. I have no problem saying artist, because artist covers all those things you just mentioned. A director's an artist, a producer's an artist, a painter's an artist. Like everyone, art is art. But it's I'm with you on that, because in my IG I used to like stress about, okay, do I need to put actor first / this?
Yeah, like I don't want to be pretentious.
I just dropped it all because, dude, I'm Sam Dever, man. That's my name. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go by these. If you know me, you know me. Like I don't.
Yeah.
If you follow me and you want to, you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. But I get it from a branding point of view. Like I get it when you're trying to sell yourself to people.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. But it's like I'm with you. Like especially when you have multiple outlets of art.
Yeah.
You can do multiple things. It's like, well, yeah, I do this, but I also do that. So am I going to just totally eliminate this over here? And so I feel that. I think that's another good insight on your part. Just
yeah, because I mean, people are going to have their own opinions regardless of whatever, whatever you do, they're going to feel a certain way. So you can't like let other people dictate how you express yourself.
Yeah.
I've dealt with a lot of shit, like a lot of like stereotypes towards me
Yeah.
without people meeting me,
Uh-huh.
or they've met me and they feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been like limiting, like creatively, and even like, in relationships, like in socially. And it's something that I'm really trying to like shed, you know. um
Mm.
yeah, I mean, that's going into a different territory.
Well, especially in an industry, and correct me if I mean, especially like, actor type, like you have to be a type and
Hmm.
you're selling that to people. And I was on the podcast. I think Brian Meyerhofer was talking about, shout out to Brian. He was just talking like how he was getting casted as just this one thing.
Yeah.
And they wanted him just to be this. He's like, but I'm more than
Yeah.
this. I'm not,
Yeah.
I don't want to butcher what he said, but it was something
Yeah.
along those lines. And, but again, goes back to business. And they look
Yeah.
at, see, that's one thing I didn't realize. I mean, it's like, I realized it, but I didn't. Like
Hmm.
when, I'm like, oh, you just go out there, you start acting, people put you in stuff. I was like, well, no. Then you have to go get a manager and agent. But to get
Yeah.
the manager and agent, you really have to know who you are as an actor and have
Hmm.
that package presented to them. Of
Yeah.
course, there's exceptions to the rule, but more times than not, that's one thing, because they're like, look, you look like Christopher Walken. You look like whatever, go with that. I'm like, okay.
Hmm.
But like having it like presented like, here, this is my package. But I can see how that's from business and money. Yeah. Well, okay. We know we can book this guy for every single thing like this, but from an artistic standpoint, it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
but so many of us are so much more than that. Like it's not,
Yeah. I mean, it can be really difficult. And like, once again, that's why it helps to like, have your own projects or be at a studio or like doing plays where you get to like explore those sides of yourself. Because getting typecast, yeah, it sucks, especially if you're like aren't that person, you know. Like, I don't feel like I'm a huge douchebag, but I feel like that's a lot of the roles that get sent my way. um, but like, if you have these different avenues, then it's not that bad. And I think like starting out, find a way to have fun with that. If like, okay, this is my type, this is what they see me as, you got to find a way to be able to have fun with that and explore that and have layers to that. And so for me, that's like what I try to bring when I get those roles and I read it, and it's like very like, even in the character description, you're like, they couldn't give him any redeeming qualities. I go, okay, well, like, let me find a way where I can like bring myself to this in a way that I feel fulfilled. Or maybe like, okay, this character, he's serving a purpose in the greater story, and I really like the story, so I'm contributing to that. Because I have certain friends that are like, man, I gotta like play this like like, I'm gonna throw a friend on the bus, but like, I gotta play like a Nazi or something, like something that's like just awful.
mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, yeah, like that was an awful person, it was an awful thing, but what's the story? Is the story really good, and is the message really good? Then you're serving a purpose for that. Like, and you aren't like, you, the person, aren't the shitty guy, but like, you're playing a part in a greater story. And I think that's like the best way to approach it as an actor who's getting really frustrated about being like typecast as a certain character, to approach it with that mentality.
Man, there's been some knowledge dropped on this podcast tonight, man. It's been really good talking to you, man. Like, dude, we need to go more. Let's talk sooner than 2 years next time.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah,
man. Before I give you the last word, we could keep
mm-hmm.
going. I mean, I could talk to you forever, man. But like, it's like, where can the people find you if they want to look you up on social media or check
mm-hmm.
you out or learn more about your film projects? Where should the people go?
Yeah. I'm not a huge social media guy, but I do got an Instagram, Tyler James White. I do all my posting and stuff on there. And then I have a short film that I'm working on that hopefully is coming out within the next year, called Byproduct. And we have a social media that we haven't started posting yet, but if you want to get updated on that when we do, it's on Instagram, Byproduct Movie. Yeah, Byproduct is a short film that I did in December with a pretty kick-ass crew of people. But it's a science fiction story, and did a lot of crazy research for it. But yeah, man, like we're really trying to do this thing that kind of combines like technology with nature and like spirituality, and find a way to kind of ground it all together, because there's all these things about it that connect, and there's all these weird sort of discoveries that I made in like preparing for it and learning for like the script and everything, that was pretty like pretty mind-blowing, and all these like theories. Yeah, like have you seen the documentary Fantastic Fungi?
No.
I definitely would suggest watching it, because it's like
Is that with
it's
Paul Stamets by chance? Oh
yeah,
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 he's
Paul
the mushroom
Stamets,
guy.
yeah,
He's a genius. Yeah.
yeah, Paul Stamets is like the coolest. Like I want to meet that guy so bad. He's the coolest guy. Also, shout out to Brandon Vitalman, who did this illustration, but he's the one that told me to watch Fantastic Fungi. Because Byproduct, it follows an AI. It's the main character. And he's like an agricultural android. So he like works a lot with plants. So I was trying to find a way to like, you know, really get into the character and like, and just learn like everything that I could. And watching that documentary just really like blew my mind, because like I said, like we were trying to find this through line of like nature and technology, and watching that just like brought everything together in a pretty like wild way. Yeah. So, you know, we try to include a little bit without taking away from the story, but yeah.
It's amazing, right? You go on this journey thinking the film's going to be one thing, but then the more you research it, and it can be such an educational and
Yeah.
explorative experience, you know, coming up with that film.
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge thing too, of like, of writing a story is, I don't know how it is for a lot of people, at least for me, I tend to like latch on to like these themes and things that like you want to like, I don't know, have a message or like have some sort of like intention behind what you're putting out, right? But if you like take a step back and look at what you have and just open yourself up to like everything, you can make some pretty incredible discoveries, and the story can kind of take you down a path that you never even considered, that's way better than whatever like theme or message that you were like thinking about before even was. And that kind of happened with this, which was pretty crazy. I mean, it was a big like learning lesson, but it was pretty wild, you know, like stepping back and then seeing that and having like reservations of like, oh, this isn't what I set out to like.
Exactly.
If I rewrite it that way, then it's not going to
Right.
be clear that like this was the hidden meaning of this. And it's like, well, no, but like look at like the cool characters you have set up, and look at like what you have here laid out, and you can lean into these things that like are there, and they're like way cooler. So
No, exactly, man. It's like, man, have the ability to like drop what you thought it was going to be, because this can be even better, is huge. Like, especially as an artist, like, because it's hard. Like you set out, like, this is my vision, this is what it's going to be. And one thing that really taught me that is when I was working, shout out to Kelly Schwartz in Las Vegas on music videos. I had in my mind what the music video was going to be, but
yeah,
Kelly, genius director and cinematographer and all that, I would tell him and I'd watch him and he'd be like, okay, here's what we're going to do. And then what he would do wasn't what I thought it would be. But then once I saw what he was doing, I'm like, oh yeah, that's how it should be done. Like, so
Yeah.
it's having that collaborative experience with people to be able to adapt and compromise and without compromising the vision. Like, but maybe compromising.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I'm not going to do it like this, but man, if we do it like that, it'd be way better. All right, let's go.
Yeah. Well, that's what's beautiful about collaboration, man. That's what I love about, you know, the entire process is having these people come in and especially you want to have people that, like, you know, you work well with and maybe are like-minded on certain things. But yeah, if you just open yourself up to certain things, like it can go down a path that's like, that just elevates it to a whole nother level. You know, I can be stubborn sometimes, you know, and get glued to a certain thing, which can be difficult for like some people to work with. But man, like I love it when people go to bat for their ideas.
Yeah.
And then you can like look and be like, oh shit, they're right. That is like, that's the good idea. Like that's the one that we need to go with. But yeah, and I mean, like, if there's any like advice I have for people that are in those formats, like, don't get discouraged if someone like shoots down an idea, because I feel like some people do that too. Like, if they don't feel like the alpha or whatever bullshit thing it is, and they have an idea, and then someone shoots it down, they just kind of like go into their like shell, and they're like, oh well, I'm just not going to contribute anymore. Like, no one likes my ideas. I'm out. And that's not it at all. Like, because you just get really passionate people that want to fight for their ideas. So if you have like a cool idea, like fight for it. And I feel like the best idea, hopefully, will win. Especially if you have like a director or like producer, whoever's at the top of the thing who isn't a total dick. They're going to see that. They're going to be like, oh shit, that is like the better idea.
So what you're telling me is, when, shout out to Charlie Statiris and Mike Carden, when we bring you on board for the remake to Long Road to Bakersfield, and you have some different ideas for us, we should listen, because it might make the film that much better.
Well, first off, one of the most underrated, I'm going to call it a proof of concept right now. One of the most underrated, like, proof of concepts there is, Long Road to Bakersfield. It is a cult classic waiting to happen. Yeah. No, like, I love a good like pressure cooker of ideas. It's great, man. Like, I thrive on it. That's the thing that I enjoyed from like being in bands. That's the thing I enjoy from like filmmaking. But yeah, like having the ability to listen too. I know like I've struggled with that in those situations, you know, getting glued to ideas. But that's what's good. And you want to have like an eclectic group of people involved, so you can have different ideas come through, for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm excited to see that movie, because the pictures of you that I've seen looks badass.
Yeah, we had shout out Erin Reed, who did the photos. She killed the behind the scenes photos, man. Yeah. They were rad.
You did it right, man. You did it right.
Thanks, dude.
Film.
I mean,
I haven't seen it yet, but just knowing that all you put into it and the types of crew you had there, I could say like, oh yeah, he did it right.
Thanks, man. Right. I mean, like, I love, like, there's certain things that being on sets I've seen, and I'm like, man, I would do it differently. Like, if I was putting this set together in this production, and I tried to do it with this, man. Like, if I'm going to produce this, I want to do it the way that I would like. And yeah, so there were just like small things that I tried to incorporate into the production. And it was great. Like, I want to continue to do it, and hopefully like at a grander level over time. But
you will.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, I tried to maximize everything that I could, man. Like, that's the other thing too, that I learned over the course of doing that, is just how much I love filmmaking in general. And like, going back to talking about when I just really discovered acting and my love, and like all the things connecting, and being like, okay, New York or LA, like stage or screen. and I felt this tug towards the screen, which is sort of like not blasphemy for actors, right? But like theater is like the actor's medium, and I love nothing against like I love theater, but I really felt this pull
Mm.
towards like film and TV, and I could never put my finger on it until really going through the process.
Mm.
And now I'm like, I know exactly what it is. Um, it's everything. That's what I love about filmmaking is that it takes every medium of art and puts it into one cohesive piece.
Yeah.
If hopefully you do it correctly,
Mm.
you know,
Well said.
from the acting to photography to art and production design and makeup to the music, you get to do everything. So like,
Mm.
man, like for any project that I do, man, I want to maximize every part of that. Because
Mm.
why not? Like, why
Mm.
not? Like,
Man,
why phone it in on in any of those areas?
you've spoken some truth tonight, my friend. Because I'm gonna be listening back to this. Like Tyler just motivated me to get on my shit. And uh, any last word you want to leave us with? It can be as shallow or as deep as you want. We've
Oh,
gotten pretty deep tonight, but if you want to, can be shallow, can be an idea, it can be a deep thought, a movie you saw, absolutely anything.
um, let me think, man. I'm on this movie kick this year. I've been trying to watch 365 new movies this year that I haven't seen
Wow.
before, and it's been awesome. Um,
If you want to make
so
movies, watch movies. Like,
yeah, if you want to tell stories, man, watch or read stories. A lot of them, because you really start to see what you like and what you don't like.
mm,
Because I've seen some like some classics that are classics and they stand the test of time. But I've seen some movies that are like classics, and I'm like not really feeling it. And I've seen some movies that have like flown under the radar, and I'm like, oh my god, like I love this. This is incredible. And now I can like decipher exactly why, like what it is that I like about certain things. But no, man, gratitude. I'm very thankful for like for you having me on, man, getting to talk to you and catch up, for the friends and family that I have in my life. I'm super grateful, man. I'm super thankful for everything, and just health, and some shreds of hope and happiness in this really fucking difficult and crazy time. Um,
well said, man. And
yeah,
grateful for you too, man. I'm really glad
thanks, bro.
I met you, and just shout out to
Me
that
too.
Playhouse West community, man. Like we were talking
Yeah,
about how it's hard to meet people, and I did. It's just incredible the network and the quality of
yeah,
people you meet there, and like are now like, I mean, look, man, we it's like you're in the trenches together at Playhouse West. So it's like
hmm
even though we didn't know each other for long, we went through a lot together in a short amount of time.
Oh yeah, you go through some things, man. Like,
Especially when you get to deep meaning, right?
yeah, like you have some experiences with people, man. It's like you get like 15, you get like a lifetime of friendship in like the span of a month sometimes. Like
Yeah, no,
in like
100%.
in like 15 minutes sometimes you go through like an entire thing. So, anyone who's trying to work on their craft, get into a class, or check out Playhouse West. Shout out to that, man. And we had a really good group, man.
We
And
did have a great group.
we had
Yeah.
some good we had a good crew. We had some good teachers, man. Shout out
Yeah.
Wolf. Miss that guy.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, he directed my play, my one act play, and that was like
Yeah. It was great.
learned
You
a
and
lot
Lawan did
from
that, man.
that
I
guy.
remember that. It was really good.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out Lawan too, man. He's great, man. Another great writer, really great actor. Um, yeah, that was fun, man. I'd like to like maybe revisit that one day, rewrite it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely needs a rewrite, but
No, it was great,
that
man.
was
I'm like, oh,
cool.
Tyler wrote that? Like that was great. I,
Yeah, I mean, once again, that like came from a place of like I was trying to find a one act, and I couldn't find one that like I would have. There was like two plays that had like characters that were like that surrounded characters that were kind of like, coming of age, like 18 to 24. Like there wasn't a ton of play. There's like This Is Our Youth and like Suburbia, and like that's pretty much it for like plays that have cat. I mean, there's a bunch of other ones, like smaller ones that I know, but like those are the two big ones. And I was like, man, like I've never seen like skaters in a play before, and those are the kids that I grew up with. So let me see what comes from this. And then I wrote Burials, man, and that was really fun.
Hell yeah, man. I love it, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Really grateful to know you and met you. And I'm not joking that you've really inspired me tonight, man. You've dropped some really great knowledge, especially for creatives. And I really appreciate you, man. Just stick around for a second.
Yeah.
Hit the recording, but Tyler, keep it up, my friend.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Always. Appreciate it. We'll do it again.
Definitely.
All right, brother.
Much love.